So today I have Jen Zeller with me, and you might know her on social media as the South Dakota Cowgirl. Jen is a rancher. She's a quarter horse breeder. She's a barrel racer. She runs her tail off working at Art of the Cowgirl. She's a photographer and has had her photos featured in multiple places, including on the cover of the AQHA Journal. And I'm sure I'm missing something else, but I honestly don't know how she does everything she does. And she's an absolute joy to be around and a ball of fire. So today is going to be a great conversation, and I'm absolutely thrilled and honored to have her on today.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for having me. So excited to be here. My name is Jen Zeller. For those of you that do not know me, I am known, maybe you know me as the South Dakota Cowgirl. You may know me from Outside the Turn. You may know me from Duchesneau Quarter Horses. There's any number of ways that you could know me, but essentially, I live on a commercial cow calf ranch in the middle of nowhere, South Dakota, where we raise quarter horses. We've been tasked with the job of not screwing up 50 years of my father-in-law's breeding program. Um, we're known for breeding really gentle quarter horses, and I run barrels around the country. So I've created a brand called Outside the Turn, and basically that is a horsemanship brand that is dedicated to helping barrel racers better themselves so they can be better for their horses. So I start colts, ride barrel horses. I teach a photography class here and there. Do a lot of photography related to horses. You might have seen my work in the Quarter Horse Journal. And when I'm not doing those things, I like to hang out with my chickens and do yoga.
That's awesome. You have so many things going on. Like, I don't know how you keep track of everything. Like, maybe there's two of her. Like, she just you're just all over the place. It's like you can just watch your stories online. It's like, oh, well, now she's in Texas. Oh, well, now she's over here. Oh, she's home. She's teaching. She's doing all of these things. So you have your fingers in so many things and you're so busy and you do such a good job at all of them. So I'm glad we can talk about them today. So, first, let's talk about your pants and your shirt with dovetail, like that line. Can we talk about that a little bit? Because before you did dovetail, I wore dovetail. And when I saw that you had that design with them, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, because everything I had ever wanted in their pants, because I wore their canvas pants, and there was just things missing with them, certain pockets that would have been better or whatnot. So can you talk a little bit about that and your design? And they're just awesome.
Yeah, and I don't actually recall exactly how we got hooked up with Dovetail specifically, but I think their PR girl had reached out to us. She happened to follow my Instagram, the South Dakota Cowgirl, and she just thought we were great. She's, a city girl, doesn't know anything about ag, doesn't know anything about cattle, horses, nothing, and she just kind of fell in love with the messaging, I guess, that I was putting out there. And so we got to chatting. She sent me one of their original pairs of pants, which I didn't hate. I liked them. But I'm like, we could really make these better. And what would be even cooler is if there was actually a shirt that was practical for women to wear too. Because the only way you get decent pockets in a shirt is to wear a man's shirt.
It's
And
so
then you just
true.
look like a big box, especially if you're me and you're super petite, right?
Right.
So we were talking about that, and Amanda was like, well, I think we should bring Sarah on board. I think we can make something like this happen for you. And so I did my scientific research, and I basically asked all the ranch girls on, through my South Dakota Cowgirl page and through my personal Facebook page, like, if you could design a women's Western shirt, what would it have? And I already had a pretty good idea. I don't want it to come untucked. I want to
Yeah.
be able to move my shoulders around and have it move and not pinch me or like feel restricted. And it
Right.
needed to have pockets that were functional and usable, and that didn't make us look like a box, that made us feel like a woman,
Right.
right? And so um we talked about it, and I think it was about 2.5 years from the time that we talked to the time that we actually got the first product. And then in the meantime, we were able to bring my stepdaughter on, and Kelsey was able to talk them through all the different pockets and how we wanted them. So she actually there's a little pocket in that jean on the right side that is specifically designed for transfer needles
That's so
or
cool.
for that little transfer hub where you can put it in, you pull out the dull one and you can put a new one in, I guess.
Yeah.
And so she and the owner of Dovetail went back and forth. Sarah went back and forth for a long time, getting that pocket just right. And so that is how the DX Ranch jean was born. And then the Zeller shirt was born because I went to them with all of everything I wanted in a shirt. And when I got the prototype, I cried.
Right.
So I was
As
like,
you said,
it's amazing.
you're like, it fits. My buttons aren't busting at the seams. Like I can move my shoulder. I can rope in it. I can do whatever.
Well, and I wanted the safari sleeves too. That was one thing that I didn't want to like. That's one thing that I really like on a shirt because I'm petite. So a lot of times the sleeves are too long anyway for me
Yeah.
on a lot of these women's shirts. So if you fold the cuff up, it's better. But like then if you really want to fold the cuff up, it never stays.
Right. Yeah.
So when you put in a safari sleeve with that extra little that piece of fabric that goes back and buttons on itself, then it stays up. So at the end of the day in a branding, when I'm hot, but I still don't necessarily want to sunburn my shoulders, it's fixed. It's out of the way if I want to be, if I'm roping a calf by the end of the day, whatever. I pretty much live in the dovetail jeans when I'm working on the ranch because it's got a little pocket for my phone. Your phone does not come out. They're pretty tough. They require a lot of wear and tear to get them to ruin.
Yeah, they're awesome jeans. I mean, just all the way around. And that design. And I feel like they fit a lot of different body styles. Like, I mean, you and I are short. For you, those of you who don't know, how tall are you? I'm 5'1". So
They say I'm 5'1", but I think we're pretty close to the same height.
I think so. Like that picture of us I saw it the other day, Art of the Cowgirl. I was dying. Like, welcome
Well,
to
Cody he thought he was really cute taking it that way too.
I saw it and I was like, oh, we're small people apparently. So coming from this large man. So but yes, your pants are awesome. Like just the phone pocket alone. I'm like the vaccine pocket's awesome. The front pockets are awesome, but the phone pocket, I mean, how many times with regular pants has your phone fallen out or you put it in your front pocket and then it stabs you as you're trying to get on your horse or
Yeah,
you
that
know,
was one thing we wanted to make sure too. Like women's jeans don't have a deep enough pocket for a knife to
right.
sit in the front pocket. And so I have multiple times either put my knife in like next to the phone pocket or in one of the other pockets. And I'll wash it like that because it just does not come out. It sticks, it grips, it does, all the things. And you can actually get climbers in the big long pocket on the right side of you too.
Oh wow. That's cool. Yeah.
So I've used that pocket before as well, but they're pretty handy jeans, and I love that Dovetail honors women and wants to give us what we want. And there's probably I know there's a good thing in the work for winter pants. I'm just not at liberty to say, but they're coming.
Well, that's awesome, especially where you're at. I mean, here, if we hit 40 degrees, I'm crying about it. But where you're at, it's like the frozen tundra half the year.
Yes. Yeah, I was just thinking about that yesterday, actually, as I'm watching my mare that I hauled. She just had been down to Oklahoma, and I've got her. We're back now, and I blanketed her all winter, and she wears like a very expensive, very heavy hood, the whole 9 yards. And I always think she doesn't get really hairy, but the amount of hair coming off that mare still, and I'm like, okay, so it's May now. She's only going to look like this until September 1st. And then the hair's coming back on.
Yeah. Just that short window.
Right.
Oh my
Right.
gosh. That's too funny. So for the the dovetail pants, can they just go to dovetail.com and find them?
Yep. You can go to dovetail.com, and I actually may have an affiliate link somewhere. I don't know. Those of you that have affiliate links, like keeping up with them is one of the hardest stinking things to do. So if you want an affiliate link when we get to the end of this podcast, just reach out to me. I'll get it for you and I'll find it and I will send it over. Otherwise, it's dovetail.com and it's the DX Ranch collection. And it includes a shirt, two types of DX Ranch pants, and then the shacket, which I don't know about you, but I freaking love shackets
Yes.
because you can put them over a t-shirt and still be warm.
Yes.
So the Oahe shacket is really stinking cute and it's really heavy. It's one of my favorite things to wear. You can dress it up, dress it down. Like it's pretty functional, multi-purpose. It's nice.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to check that out. I don't think I've seen that.
And it's a beautiful like camel color with
Oh,
some kind of recycled button they're really pretty.
oh, that's
So yeah,
yeah.
it's a neat. We didn't know that was coming. We were like, oh well, isn't this fun?
Yeah, that's fancy. You can
Yeah,
wear it out or wear it outside. One of the two. Oh
yeah.
my.
And
So,
oh, and there's a summer jean too for the DX Ranch too. So if you don't have the summer version, you need the summer version.
so what is the difference between the
It's
original and
the
then
original denim is a really, really heavy denim.
oh,
And when like one of the things I had mentioned to them when the first year that we had them on the market that I wore them was like, dude, I'm in Topeka, Kansas, and it's 105, and I'm unloading a trailer at a barrel race, and I am dying.
so hot.
So the summer version is a really pretty kind of a bright blue, sky blue denim, and it's a lighter weight.
Oh, that's cool. And that's good to know too, because like the canvas is that's the original, that's what I wore was the canvas. And that was so hot in the summer. I mean, we get 115 here and it's so hot. So that's awesome, especially for those in like hotter climates and whatnot. I'm gonna have to check that out. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah,
So
so
that's
there should be two types of the denim. So there's like the original, and then there's like a summer version. And the
oh,
summer version is awesome.
that's
Those were
awesome.
also those that summer version was my idea. I'm like, dude, I love these things, but I gotta have them because I go south a lot later in the summer
Yeah.
um to barrel race, and so um or I even wear them. Like I think there's a photo of me wearing them in August here at a pro rodeo last year when we were all covered in mud. Um, but it let me pack my phone with me to the arena so I could have a little kid film my run for me, you know?
That is the important thing. You have to have
Right. We need it.
yes, I agree. I need validation that this happened. Okay, so let's talk about Art of the Cowgirl. I was trying to think about how I came across your page because I want to say it was it like 6 years ago now or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And it was like I just loved your stories. Your stories were just so good. And I mean, not just with the horses, but all of it. And then like we were talking about Art of the Cowgirl, your breakdown stories with your vehicles. And I was like, oh my gosh, poor Jen. Like
Damn it,
it
Darla with Damn it, Darla.
your truck. I was like, and it was like every time I would pull up your story, I'm like, oh my gosh, Jen, like she's broke down again in the middle of nowhere. Like, what is happening? So yeah, I don't remember exactly how I stumbled across your page. It was probably the algorithm. It was probably like, Siri, you look at horse stuff and photography and stuff like that. And it probably just shoved it in there, but I'm so glad it did because there's so much value in your content. It's not just like your random person that's just posting random things here and there. Like you have a lot of value. You have a lot of value with what you're sharing with the horses. You have a lot of value with what you're sharing just with life stuff and ranch stuff and just all the way around. So and you're
Oh, nice.
oh my gosh, no, it's true. And your how do I say it? Your frequency and your vibe on your stories is always so high. And I don't know if it's like an attractant, like a bug to a light, because even when you were broke down, you're like, it's fine. It's fine. This is a great day. It's fine. Like, everybody needs to have Jen's outlook. So
Well, we do because if we wake up on this side of the earth, it's a good day.
yes, I agree. We have
Because
another
somebody
day.
could be having a worse day. Someone is, in fact, on this side of the earth having a worse day than us.
100%. Yeah.
They're struggling with something. They've got $40 to their name and they're wondering how they're going to get to work tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm broke down on the side of the road with a big ass 4 horse with living quarters and a pickup, and I've got 3 horses with me. Like, how blessed am I?
Yeah. I know I get that. And it's all how you right. Like it's your perspective And I think that changes everything. And I think that says a lot about you. And it shows other people through your stories that even though they're going through the shit and they feel like they're never going to get out of it, there is a light. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, like there's a light. It's just how you look at it. Like, is this a lesson? Where can we go from here? Like, what can we learn from this today?
Well, and I'll be honest, not to interrupt you, but I was not born a girl half full. Like, that is not,
I get
like,
that.
I have to work very hard to um find the positive in things, and it's become easier the more time I've spent doing it, right? It's just like
Yeah.
any other exercise that you do for yourself for self-improvement. I'm just fortunate enough to have my other half is a glass half full. And
Yeah.
so, if I am to call him and be like, no, 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 and he's like, what the hell is your problem? And he never feeds into the negativity, or he never stampedes with me. He never runs off away into my like steamrolling down a hill where I just think life is bad. And so he's been very good in helping me check myself. And
That.
because he's very even keeled, and because I've been practicing that, I mean, it helps not only just like you said in life in general, but horses don't want somebody with negative energy around them. No,
No.
who does?
Right. Yeah.
We don't want those people that like to swirl in drama. I mean, there are people that like to swirl in drama and they do get an adrenaline high from it, and they get a serotonin kick from living in that space, and they want to surround themselves with other people that are going to stampede with them and be involved in that. But you can get a serotonin kick from hanging out with the winners and the positive people too.
Oh, 100%. And it's that deal, like, you are who you hang out with, or you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with. So if you're in that circle of people that everything is doom and gloom and everything's depressing and you're never going to get ahead and all that's like, that's where you're going to be. Why would you go anywhere else? So no, I totally agree. And Cody's the same way. Like, if I cry about a couch and I'm like, this is not going to work, he's like, same deal. He won't feed into it. He's like, you're lucky. Like, look at what you get to do. I'm like, yes, you're right. Absolutely. So it is like you almost have to retrain your brain. I feel like if you're not naturally that way, like
Yep.
you have to work hard at, just like working out, like you were saying, like you have to work hard at it to make that work for you and to make it natural on a daily basis, especially if you're just first starting out. But it is, your frequency is awesome. Like, it's just, I wish I could tell everybody, which I'm going to, like, Jen's frequency is awesome. Even Cody at Art of the Cowgirl, he's like, she's on fire. He's like, she is a ball of fire going 1,000 miles an hour, like a little bumblebee all over. It was so good.
He's
So
not wrong.
no, no, he called it good. So speaking of Art of the Cowgirl, let's talk about that. So when did you start with working with Art of the Cowgirl from the very beginning? Because I remember you had some colts in the sale, then you did the horsemanship clinic, and it kind of went from there, it seems like.
Well, so my other half and Kurt have been friends for a little bit of time.
Gotcha.
They've known each other for a few years. I think Zach maybe went and rode in a clinic with Kurt. Um, and then we kind of they kind of lost touch with each other. And then we got reconnected at a barrel race of all places when Mesa was still pretty young. They had moved from Montana back to South Dakota. And they were living in Newell, I think. And, he and Zach exchanged numbers again, and they kind of kept in touch. And then when Tammy did the first year Art of the Cowgirl, I remember having these like, which this sounds really petty now, but I was like these pangs of like jealousy. I'm like, this is the best idea. Why did I not think of this? And it wasn't like I was mad about it. You know what I mean? But it
Yes.
was like,
Yes.
how freaking brilliant is this? Like, what a way
Right.
to promote women. And I had multiple people actually call me and be like, is this your brainchild?
Oh my
No,
gosh.
it's not, but
Like,
it's a good one. Like, and so I'll never forget when she actually called me that right before the event started. I think it was maybe October or something, and it was January. It was the first one. It was in January, and she's like, "I really want you to be part of this. Everyone says you're amazing, and that, I don't even remember what it was that she said, but Tammy was a ball of fire too, right? Like that woman had more go and energy, and she was just an amazing individual. And
Yeah.
so um she wanted me to curate an art exhibit. So that's what I did the first year. I ran the silent auction and brought a bunch of photographers in and had them print pieces that we then sold at auction. So I ran a silent auction and an art auction, both. And then I think that was 2019. And then the following year was 2020. So it was pre-COVID. She had asked me about, really, what do you want to do at Art of the Cowgirl next year? And I'm like, well, might be cool if Zach and I started a cult. I think that would be really awesome. And she's like, well, let's make that happen then. So we brought a filly that we raised that's from our breeding program, and we started her under saddle and talked people through that. And I got a little mini clinic from Lee Smith, which was awesome because Lee is, hero vibes. And
Yeah.
we sold her in the sale. We actually ended up selling her to my friend Taryn Dreeling, who's in Nebraska.
Oh, how cool.
And Taryn had actually come and hung out with us that year. That was her first year at Art of the Cowgirl. And she had watched us start a cult. And she told me the second day, she said, I called Tom and he said, what are you doing? And she said, I'm watching Jen lope around for the second ride on her filly and I'm buying her. And she's her favorite horse now.
That's awesome.
So she bought her and we kept her for a year and rode her. And then I met her in Nebraska and she picked her up. Um, and then I have run, they have asked me to basically manage the Merck Arena since then, when they moved the event to where it is now in Queen Creek. So basically, I'm what they call the arena director. So all of the world's greatest, all of the ranch rodeo, everything that you see televised for the most part. When I say go, they go. When I say stop, they don't go in.
That's awesome.
It's really cool because I get to meet all the clinicians. All the clinicians at some point they rotate through that arena. So like this year I got to meet Nick Dowers. He's the nicest, kindest human.
Yeah.
So I get to watch a bunch of really cool demonstrations, and I'm just very honored that they have allowed me to be part of the event for the last, for all those years. And that's where I met you, because just randomly I walked one morning and I'm like, wait, hey, or was it you? I don't remember, but I think
Remember.
we saw each other, and you had your little sister with you, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
And that's the first time we met in person, and it was great. It was so
Yeah, I
Art
was
of the
like, I know.
Cowgirl. Oh, and Art of the Cowgirl has brought so many different women from so many different walks of life together. Because being a cowgirl is really more than just roping and riding a horse. It's such a like spirit, sort of like a mindset, a can do, don't tell me no kind of attitude, I think.
I agree. Like you have to have grit. Like you can't get by if you don't have grit. And that event, like the energy there, just without everything else, the energy of with all of these women who are like take no prisoners type of women, it's so good. Like I can't even explain it to people. I'll try to explain it. I'm like, you just have to go. Like I can't explain it to you. It's just this vibe from all these women who are awesome, and they're all so skilled and talented. I mean, from the makers to the gals riding and the ranch rodeo, all of it, like their energy and their vibe. I feel like I want to call it like a mastermind of all of these awesome Western women in one place. Like we could probably rule the world with everybody that goes.
Yeah, I think you probably could for sure. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of like, I don't want to call them like hero vibes, but I'm like, man, she's a badass. I want to be her when I grow up, you know?
Right? Oh, I totally do. Yeah, like fangirl. Yeah.
Lots of fangirling. I've got to meet, Sherry Servey. I got to meet Janet Bean this year. Um,
So,
so it's just it's a cool event, a cool place to be. If you have not gone, you absolutely should go. Plan to spend at least a couple days. You should for sure spend Friday and Saturday there.
yeah.
Um, I love the horse sale. That's probably, well, I love horse sales in general, but that horse sale is Mesa does a great job curating it. It has just really handy horses, really handy riders, good good bred horses.
Yeah.
The girls have done a phenomenal job. Um, yeah, it's if you aren't inspired when you leave that event, I don't know that there's help for you.
Right? Seriously, because it's so good. I mean, all the way around. Even the over in the vendor area, all the gals I met over there, it's like I just wanted to take everyone home and have all these besties with me home because it was just so good. And the quality of people that were there, it was so good. Even the gals in my workshop, we had so much fun. I don't know if I've ever had that much fun in a workshop, and it jived and it flowed and everything went so smoothly. I was blown away how smoothly everything went with that workshop, but it was great. It was a lot of fun. So, yeah, I agree. Like if people haven't been, I always tell them like you have to go. You have to if you can make it work. One of my group members, she's in Australia, and that she's like, I'm gonna go. It's like you absolutely should go. If you can make it work, you would love it. So, yeah.
There have been Australians there before.
Have there really? Yeah.
Yes, I've met a couple people from Australia that have come over. Um, yeah, it's a great event. Tammy had a huge vision and she got it done, and I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. There's something to learn from everyone always.
Yeah, 100%. And it all came to fruition. And I feel like each year it's just gotten better and better and better. And like they they all really pay attention to what needs to be improved upon because with every event it doesn't matter how good the event is, like there's always things you can change the next year, and it seems like everybody who's running it really pays attention and makes note of it, and then the next year it's better and then it's better after that, and it just yeah, it is, it's just amazing. I can't say enough good things about it. So I haven't been to the one in Oklahoma, the workshop deal over there, and I'm going in October and teaching a workshop there. So that'll be fun too. Laura's hosting that at her ranch, and that's like through the foundation part of it. But that'll be fun too. It'll be a lot of fun to see the differences between the two events, because the one's just workshops and then the other one is all the things. So
Is it in Pawhuska?
yes.
And Pawhuska is a beautiful town. It's where Ree Drummond, the pioneer woman, lives.
Yes, I can't wait to go.
The downtown is all rejuvenated and looks lovely.
That's awesome. Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
And
So,
in case anyone doesn't know this, if you want to travel to Pawhuska, there's a big barrel race there over Thanksgiving weekend, and the facility is amazing.
is it?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and you go down there quite a bit. Well, I mean, you were just saying you were in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So,
Um, I hit that barrel race one year on my way home from Texas. It was very good. There's a huge outdoor, a big racetrack, plenty of camping. You can, at least at the time, they let you do tie outs for your horses. So I just built a hot wire trap. Didn't have to have my horses stalled. The indoors pretty dang nice. That's where they hold like divisional circuit finals for the WPRA for the Prairie Circuit.
oh,
So
nice.
yeah, so it's a nice facility, and I would 10 go back.
That's awesome. Well, I'll have to check it out when I'm down there. I've never been through Oklahoma, so that'll be a whole nother experience on my end. But
Yay!
yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. So, speaking of new experiences, your training program, your outside the turn program. Can we talk about that? So you have your breeding program, and then your breeding program translates over to your training program. And then you have your horsemanship school with your training program. And then you have your outside the turn program. Like there's so many things. Can you break them down so we can understand like which is which, how does it work, if people are interested in your horsemanship school or your outside the term program or things like that?
Yes, I can. And I'm sorry, you guys, for coughing, but I came back from Oklahoma not like really under the weather. I don't know if it's a cold or allergies or what, but the cough is hanging on. Um, so the Duchesneau Ranch or Duchesneau Quarter Horses, we really refer to it as the DX Ranch because Duchesneau is not the easiest word to say or the easiest name to say. Um, Duchesneau Quarter Horses was started way back in the late 70s, early 80s by my now deceased father-in-law. Um, he'd kind of grown up with in the area where they use draft horses for everything. And I don't know if anybody's ever tried to catch an actual calf on a full draft horse, but it's not real. You're not going to get it done. And his goal was to have a horse that would be fast enough to catch the calf, but he wanted something that was going to be very, very trainable with an outstanding disposition. And that is what we have. So we have a lot of old school running blood, and then a lot of what people would call like the no name mares or the nothing mares, and even maybe nothing stallions to a lot of people. But these colts are literally born gentle. So we have had we have multiple horses that can go from halter broke as a 2 year old to their first ride in a matter of a couple hours,
That's
because
awesome.
they're just they are open minded enough and quiet dispositioned enough and gentle enough that they're not going to try to kick you if you throw a tarp at them.
Yeah.
And some of that also comes from the presentation of things as well, right? Like
Right,
if
right.
we're presenting it in a way that the horse is like, ooh, I'm pretty skeptical, well, then they might feel the need to defend themselves. If we present it in a way where the horse is like, okay, I think I understand, you're confident, and they don't feel the need to be defensive, then it doesn't take them as long to get over it. So there is a breeding program. This is going to be the first year. I've been at the ranch for 16 years. This will be the first year in the 16 years that I've been here, and I don't know for how long prior to this, that we will be offering a select number of weanlings for sale.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So this will be a good chance if you've wanted a horse out of the program. This will be a good chance for you to get a weanling that, which obviously they'll be lower priced than if we go put 90 days on them as
Right.
twos or threes, right? This will
Yeah.
be a good chance for you to get one, to lock your contracts in and get that done. We just had our first baby born this morning.
Oh my gosh, did you really?
Yeah, a little filly. She's really cute, and I got to go to the pasture because I think there's probably at least one more out there too. So we have the quarter horse training side of things, or the quarter horse breeding side of things, and then we generally keep a lot of those horses in our program and use them obviously here on the ranch. And because they're so gentle and easy to get along with and such good disposition, we can generally pretty much put anybody that wants to come ride on something.
That's awesome.
Um, and we actually, at one point in time, we had three studs, and the three studs were the kid horses,
Oh
and
my
they
God.
could ride them next to each other around, didn't matter, around the mares, the three studs next to each other. And everybody was a 100% solid citizen. No kicking, no squealing, no nothing. Like, wouldn't have known they were studs if you didn't know they were studs.
That
Um,
says a lot.
yeah. And
Like,
so, and we have we have three studs now that we're still breeding. They are they are rideable, but we only really ride our little blue roan stud. And again, anyone can get on him and do whatever they need to do, and he will take care of them and be a solid citizen.
that's
So that does, the other one continues to get wire cuts, so he's not sound anymore. But he was nice enough that my stepson started him when he was like 10, started him under saddle, did all the work by himself with him. Same with the blue roan stud. He also did that. He also trained that stud. So the horsemanship school, we are getting away from specifically running it like through the DX ranch, and everything's coming full circle, running around to Outside the Turn University. So I started Outside the Turn 2018 maybe, basically as an Instagram account to separate the barrel racing and the horse training side of things from the South Dakota Cowgirl, so that I could just make the South Dakota Cowgirl mostly about photography. I mean, you follow me, it's not all about photography. I post a lot of photos of the horses and little
yeah.
horse training nuggets over there too. But to me, Outside the Turn is really outside the turn of either barrel racing, outside the turn of a cow horse, outside the turn of a reining pattern, because it's really what you're doing outside of that turn that's going to make your horse good.
Oh,
It's
that's
not just it's not just what you're doing outside the turn for your horse, right? It's not just the dry work, but it's outside the arena for yourself too, outside of what you're doing for your horses, that's going to make everything better. And so my my other half had the idea to do outside the turn university and use that as the platform to um, teach people. So through my outside the turn, I take a lot of outside horses. We start a lot of colts, and we start a lot of students starting colts too. So if somebody wants to learn how to start colts, I'm a good phone call for them. We have two options. You can, and generally in the summer, the best option is the horsemanship school. So we run a horsemanship school for 4 to 6 weeks, usually starting somewhere around May 20th. It's generally for college students. We have made some exceptions for some high school students to come, but we generally want you to be 18 so you are able to like sign for yourself because you're not a minor at that point. And those students basically are in class 5.5 days a week. So we start Monday mornings, 8:30 or 9 o'clock, and we handle whatever we have on the docket that day, whether that's colts that people have brought us to start, whether it's barrel horses people have brought us to pattern. The students are also allowed to bring their own horse. So usually that first couple days is kind of orientation. And what we tell people through the school and through the internships is, listen, we're not telling you that what we do is the right way. We're not telling you it's the best way. We're just telling you that this is what works for us. And we're going to make the assumption that since you have chosen to come learn from us, that you want to learn how we do things. So we're going to give you the who, what, where, when, why of why we're doing it this way, the benefits to doing it this way. And we're going to ask that you do it this way while you're here. Our job is to put tools in your toolbox. Your job is to take those tools home and use them how you see fit in your own horsemanship journey. And I think one of the things that separates us from a lot of the other places you could go to learn horsemanship, if you will, is that as long as you're trying and you're offering a thoughtful release to your horse, you can't screw it up. So a lot of places they're not going to let you ride their good horses because they're going to be worried about having to fix it after the fact.
Right.
The horse is always going to take me up on the better deal. So it's on me then to have better timing, better feel, better balance, better release, all of those things, right? Yeah. So then when somebody who's fumbled over all of the maneuvers, if you will, which gosh, I still fumble over maneuvers all the time, right? I've been doing this for
all
30
do.
years.
Yeah.
But so, when someone's fumbled over and the horse just knows enough to fill in for them, when somebody that gets on them that is going to offer them the better deal, if you will, the horse will come right back to you. And so for me, training barrel horses, a lot of, well, any performance horse barn really, but for barrel horses specifically, there are not a lot of internships available for people to learn to train barrel horses.
No. Yeah.
There's not a lot of internships available for colt starting unless you're willing to just clean stalls, feed, and hang out on the round pen fence, right? If you can sit on a horse and you can sit in the middle of them, I can get you through the first 5 rides because we're going to get that colt gentle enough and kind enough. And, I may have to snub it off to my saddle horse the first ride or even do everything on the ground on the end of the lead rope. But we're going to get success for the horse and success for the student. And, my job is to help put them in a position where they're learning to read the horse, where they're learning to feel the horse, where they're learning to feel footfalls, and where they're learning to stay safe. Because I think so much of what happens when people start colts is there's little signs that are missed a lot of times, and that's why we get bucked off, because the horse was uncomfortable or was telling us that they didn't really understand what we were asking them to do. And a horse that bucks is still trying. That's him trying something. It's not what we want him to try, right? Yeah. But he's still trying something. And so I tell a lot of these students, like, look, my job is to help keep everybody safe in this and set the horse up for success. The horse doesn't want to buck, and we don't want him to buck. We don't ever want them to learn they can do that. So my job is to help you guys learn how we prevent that and how we help the horse choose a different answer And if we can teach them that from the beginning, and I can teach some of these students how to do that, man, if you can start a cult and you can give that cult some quality, you will never be without a job.
Oh, it's so good. That's so good, Jen. Like everything, your whole platform, the what you stand behind with the horses. I mean, it's all it just jives. Like the way you're describing your program and the way you teach your students, you are helping them understand. You're not just telling them you're going to do it this way because I said, you're helping them understand why they're doing it a certain way. And I
Yep.
love what you said about how this is the way we do things and everybody does things different, but because they're there learning with you, then they must have some trust in how you do things. So it's reasonable to say, okay, well, this is how we do things. We're going to teach you our way. And then if they go on later and they learn other things from other people, then, that's another deal. But I love all of it. I love your program. I love watching the little clips of it here and there and what you guys are doing. And your horses, they're so gentle. I mean, I have not been around them, but just watching you with them, with your students, and you have these students who some of them have no experience starting colts at all,
Right.
and they're going on with it. Like what they're like sponges, and they're taking this information that you're teaching, and they're making careers out of it, or they're using it on their own, and it's so good. So how if somebody wants to get involved in that program and get involved in what you're offering for that, that's all through outside the turn?
It is and it's not. So I left we did leave the summer horsemanship school on the DX Ranch website, and it's the dxranch.com, and I think it's under learning opportunities or something. Um, I pretty much only run that program for the first part of the summer, and I try to end it before the 4th of July run in case I want to go rodeo, because South Dakota has, like, the Badlands circuit is the circuit to be in when you are over the 4th of July. Like,
Yeah.
you can hit very easily 8 rodeos in like 5 days.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So I try to finish that program up so that I'm free then to like go do that. Um, and that program, like I said, it runs about May 20th through the middle of June for 4 to 6 weeks. That said, people are always free to book a private week with me. They're free to book a day with me. I pretty much ride 5 to 6 days a week. So if I'm here and I'm riding and they want to come ride, they're free to call me and set up a day and we will make that happen. Um, I'm also offering a 1 to 3 month unpaid internship.
Very cool.
And then I have a full-time girl that works for me that kind of helps me keep the horses on track. Um, and and one of the things that we really try to strive to do with the horses is I want to teach the horse to learn. So
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, like, I can teach a horse to turn right if I pull on his left ear. And every time he looks to the right, I release that. So
Right.
if I teach a horse to learn, it really doesn't matter who rides behind me. As long as they release when they get what they want, that horse is going to figure it out and be pretty nice for them to ride um, behind me in that way. We also have an I can't rule, so we don't let any students say they can't. The appropriate the appropriate answer is I'm not able to yet, or I will try. If we catch them saying I can't, it's 30 jumping jacks or 15 push-ups
That's
on the
so good.
ground right then. Um, because we're not going to accept I can't from our horse. So why would we accept it from the student? So
Yeah.
it's just kind of helping frame the parameters of the relationship, and we try to teach people, like, look, I want option A, right?
Yeah.
But I might have to go through B, C, D, and E before I get all the way back to option A. But
Right.
every time the horse does something, even if it's not what I want, they're still trying something. They're still trying to figure out what it is we want. And it just comes down to better communication with our horse, right? They've been able to do everything we're ever going to ask them to do since they were about 3 days old. They
Yeah.
can run, they can canter pirouette, they can trot, they can walk, they've learned to back up. Um, they've learned to stay around through their body, like all the things we're ever going to want them to do.
They can
It's
do
just
it.
they can do it. It's a matter of us communicating to them what it is we need from them at that moment.
Right. That's so good.
So we generally take applications for the horsemanship school, and that's a limited number of students. It's usually capped at 4 because we want to make sure that we have adequate resources to help those 4 students. This year the cost was $450 a week. They do get housing. We will also feed a horse for them if they bring a horse, so that's included in that cost of $450. We provide them beef and eggs. The rest of the food is on them, but we do have lunch every day with everybody to talk about what we did in the morning and what we're going to do in the afternoon. And then because we're in the middle of South Dakota ranch country, in May and June, we go to a lot of brandings. So some of those days are going to be spent in the branding pen, learning something other than training horses, but it's still horsemanship in so much as you've got to be aware of what's going on, right? Which we're going to be aware with our horses. We got to be empathetic, and we got to be present, and we have to like figure out how all those things work together. So
Oh, it's so good. And like the parts about communication, it's so relative between like you not allowing your students to say I can't, and we don't allow horses to say I can't. Like it's not an option. We don't quit. And it's just how it's transferable and how like I just like John, I have all these great things to say and it just they're just this block because it's so good. Like we're both emotional human beings. They have emotions, we have emotions, and the way you run your program and the premises that you stand on for your program, it just flows so well. And it's obvious it flows so well because of all of the results you've had with it. So, with that program, you also have your online program, right? So that
yeah, the online program is basically a membership. It's a monthly membership that you join through outside the turn, and I try to film about 5 to 6 rides a week on colts, and it may not be the actual ride, right? It might be groundwork, but I try to film them not only just for myself, but for the clients too. Then the clients can get a little snippet of like how their horse did. All the clients get membership to they get access to the program while their horses are here in the program. So they can go through and take any of the courses that I have for the members. So there's a horsemanship 101 course, which is essentially like horsemanship basics and how not to die. Um,
is really
it's like
yeah.
it's how to catch your horse, the ways to stay safe, where you would stand, what you would look for, how we pick up the hind feet. And we do it different than about 90% of the horse world. So I'll just quickly like give you a little explanation of that. When we go to pick up the hind feet, we'll run down the back of the horse to the inside of the stifle.
Yeah.
And run our hand down the inside. And that also allows us to stand next to the horse in a way that we are like standing like we'd be standing if we were ready to like bump a volleyball, right? So we're like really planted on the ground, and because we're going down the inside of it and going to put the leg in between both of ours, the horse, because we're on the inside, they have a lot harder time kicking our hand away
That's
from
awesome.
us.
Yeah.
So that's just one example of like maybe how we might do things a little differently than other people when it comes to that kind of thing. But I forget where I was going with this. So that's something in our horsemanship course that's in there, proper writing form. And you'll hear a lot of people, and this might be one of the things I would argue that I'm right on. Proper riding form is straight line, ear, shoulder, hip, and heel, and not gripping with your knees. You're sitting on your seat bones, you're sitting on your thighs, your knees, and your ankles should
Yeah.
be soft and free. If your pants are riding up while you're riding your horse and
Yeah.
you're tipping forward, you're gripping with your knees.
Right.
Surefire way to see it, and a great way to get out of balance. Interestingly enough, I posted a reel maybe last week that was like, here's an unpopular opinion, posting the correct diagonal matters. The number of comments I have gotten on that reel is on Facebook is incredible, and they're not all nice. They're like, you're
Really?
not doing it right, you're not. It's just, yeah. And they're seeing it's literally like maybe 5 seconds, on a
Yeah.
horse that is, not that I need to defend myself on this because that's my final say. You should know how to
Right.
post the correct diagonal and you should do it.
100%. I
But
will shout from the rooftops. Yes.
but that particular mare was pretty up and down when I got her. There was no extension.
Oh,
And so a lot of these people are like, well, you need to be doing half halts on this horse and you're pushing yourself up out of the saddle. Well, I am pushing myself out of the saddle because I want her to meet my speed.
right.
I'm working on the extension, which is the purpose of a post.
Right. To
The
drive her
purpose
with her
is
extension.
to get her to extend and to make it easier for her to get forward. So yeah, I am just a tiny little beat ahead of her on
Yeah.
purpose because I want her to find me.
Right.
So, instead of saying, well, you're just ahead of her and you're doing it wrong, why don't you say, why are you ahead of her? Because I could tell you why. That's
Yeah.
the thing. I'm going to give you a reason why I do absolutely everything I do. And
Yeah.
if you ask me something and I don't have a reason for it, I'm going to think long and hard. And it might take me 30 days to get back to you, but I will tell you
Yeah.
I will figure out what the why is.
Because there's
Um,
a reason behind it. You're not just doing
right.
it because
I'm
you
not doing it because grandpa did it that way because I don't have a grandpa that rode horses. Like, so there wasn't I have to put a tie down on a horse when they do this because grandpa said,
right.
right.
Right. Yeah. Well, I
Um,
think that shows the open-minded people versus the closed-minded people. So you have the closed-minded people who are like, well, we've always done it this way, and that's how it's always going to be, and you're doing it wrong. And then you have the open-minded people who I think they usually do ask the questions like,
right.
well, why? Like a little kid. Well, why? Why are you doing it that
Yeah.
way?
Well, what's this? Who's
Yeah.
that? Why, that's what my grandson right now, he's asking, what's that? What's
Yeah.
that? Like he wants to know everything. And there have been some good questions on that reel too, because I just said posting the trot is one of the most important things that you could learn for your horsemanship.
Yeah.
What questions do you have about posting the trot? I didn't ask for you to tell me to do half halts. I
Right.
didn't ask for you to tell me that I'm doing it wrong. Like, and not that I care. And my husband would be like, well, you're giving it energy. So don't give energy to the negative.
Right.
I'm just, for the sake of conversation, I'm just sharing like those are some things. So my course talks about posting the trot, sitting the trot, loping, talks about how horsemanship and life very much intermingle and how horses can make your life better and you can make your horse's life better by doing XXX. I think it's 19 videos. It's like 3.5 hours total watch time to go through the whole thing. There's also a lateral work course. So one of the things that makes our training program in itself super unique is that um, everything we do with our horse is preparation for the next step.
Right.
So, a lot of people, and you'll see the TikTok trainers. I use that term loosely. TikTok trainers, they're like getting on these colts, and I can tell you from the minute they put a foot in the stirrup, that colt's going to buck them off. Right?
Oh yeah, that's gonna be all bad. 100%.
It's going to
Yep.
be bad.
Yep.
And there are people still to this day that are like, well, colt starting's just getting to where you can put a leg on either side of them. You're doing horsemanship stuff. I'm sorry, colt sorting is horsemanship and it should be horsemanship. So when we are halter breaking our colts, we're thinking about how we want them to behave in the groundwork and what we're going to ask their feet to do when we do groundwork to prepare them to be saddled and ridden. When we start really doing our groundwork and get them serious about the groundwork, everything we do on the ground is to keep us safe, to teach them how to move their feet, and to prepare them to be saddled. Once we've got them where we can saddle them, everything we do from our groundwork perspective, again, it's reinforcing the lateral work, like move your hips, move your shoulders, stay soft through your face, both sides, where we don't have to, you don't weigh anything on the end of that lead rope. It's all about getting them to change eyes, which is probably missed by about 90% of colt starters. If I get a colt in to restart, 90% of the time, if he's running off with people or not comfortable under saddle, it's because he doesn't know how to change eyes.
Can you
It's a
explain that to people? Because a lot, just like on the diagonal, like a lot of people don't know what posting on the correct diagonal is, which if they want to look that up, they can. But changing eyes, that's not a really, I don't want to say it's a common term, but then it's not. Like a lot of people don't talk about it. And maybe that's why, because it's not talked about. I don't want to get deep into horsemanship here because So we could go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah. No, so changing eyes is basically your horse can't see directly in front of them and they cannot see directly behind them. So if you've ever ridden your horse and all of a sudden they like grab their little tail and their head comes up and then eventually then they'll turn their head one way or the other.
Right.
That's them seeing something out of one eye or not out of one eye and then it just shows up, right? Like a dog running out of the bushes, for example. The more confident we can get that horse at realizing stuff's going to come from the left to the right or the right to the left, and it's just going to show up out of that blind spot, the more confident we can get them with that, the more confident, quiet they're going to be. And they're going to be like, okay, well, whoever's on my back has my feet. I don't need to panic about this. It's really more about turning my feet loose to the person that either has the lead rope or has the reins, then you're better off. So we do a lot of work on changing eyes, but everything is to prepare the horse for the next step so that when we actually put a leg over them the first time,
Yeah.
they don't care. It
Yeah.
is a non-event to them because we've done all the preparation. And the older I get, the more I feel like little kids have it right, because little kids can get a lot done with a horse.
Oh yeah. And they're tiny and they just have to go with
But
it.
it's because their intent is to just hang out and have fun.
Yeah.
They're not in it to like go win a world or to prepare a horse for a futurity and have them ready. They got to be ready to exhibition by April of their 3-year-old year. And I got to be having them on the trailer with me. And, they're not approaching it from that standpoint. They're just like, I'm just having fun with them. So
Yeah.
as I've taken some of these girls that I've hired and some of these interns and given them some project horses, I'm like, here's what I'm going to teach you. This is where you stand to be safe. These are some things you can do. Have fun. And I
Yeah.
just leave them. I don't micromanage them. I just let them figure it out. That's going to create a bunch of questions in them anyway.
Yeah. 100%. But that's,
Right.
yeah. So you're not allowing them to overthink it. Like they just have to be in the moment. They have to be
Right.
present and they have to focus on what they're doing. Oh, it's so good, Jen. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's one thing that helps our program. And then, literally the girl that just left that worked for me since November, she'd only started 2 other colts with help. And by what, December, she was climbing on everything that we had to start.
That's awesome. And she was just ready to go after that. Like
Yeah.
the point, like obviously there's still more to learn, but
Oh, there was plenty to learn and there was plenty to help her with. But she was pretty confident in her ability to get them ready. And I would just ask her what she thought and she would tell me. And if I disagreed with her, I would tell her why. Like, no, I don't think we're at a place where we can do XXX yet. We need more of this.
amazing. So, and that's all, is that open all the time, that program, or is it only open certain times? How does that?
So the 3-month internship is open all the time. I'm full on interns until December.
Oh, nice.
So I can take a new intern in December. I'm not sure I'm going to have outside horses in December this year. I might just take the month off. That
I don't blame you.
my goal would be to take December off just so I can have it to ride my own horses. Because
Yeah.
mine usually get put on the back burner. But
Right.
but I would be open to having someone December, January, February. But I'm full out of space basically for these girls to come hang out and live with me. I would not have room for a 3-month internship until September 1st. Then I could take one and I would have 3 girls at that point helping me.
That's
My
awesome.
full-time girl and 2 interns. So that program I will run year round. I will also, you can book me year round to come ride with me for a week. That's probably not the cheapest option, but you're going to get me every single day. We're going to ride whatever you bring with you. We're going to ride whatever's here, and you're going to just be on information overload for a minute.
That's so cool. And just to have that opportunity. I mean, there's so many people out there that they would just jump on it if they knew about it. So I feel like the more people you're going to be, hopefully you'll be hounded. Hopefully you'll be like, I need more gens. But so then that brings up back to your outside the turn. So if they can't get to you in person, if they can't, do the 3-month or whatnot, is your outside the turn, the online program, is that open all the time? They can sign
Open
up.
all the time. You can sign up whenever you want to. I have it's a limited number, but I allow 5 students a month for private coaching.
Oh, very cool.
So
So that,
it's $125 a month. You get one lesson with me, and then you get access to everything in the membership itself.
oh, that's really cool. And then they can just go on with it through the membership if they want to
Yep.
do.
And so we record the Zoom lessons. Basically, they either need like a pivo, or they need their spouse or their friend to basically hold the phone. They put an earbud in, right?
Yeah.
And we record it through Google Meet, and then they get the recording of it too.
Oh, how cool is that? And then they can reflect on it because
Mm-hmm.
it's so different seeing yourself writing and what you're doing wrong versus just being in it. Like once, you see yourself on camera and you watch your runs or whatnot or your TikToks or any of that. And it's like in person, it's when
Yeah,
you're
and sometimes you're like, what the hell was I doing?
it's like all all video my runs cutting account. I'm like, who is that right today? Like where year ago because the monkey that's riding today, she did not show up. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, there's so many opportunities with that. Like, so is that's through the Outside the Turn website, right? Or the sub,
Yes, there's
how do they?
yeah, this Outside the Turn website has like a come ride and work with us. That's where they would fill out the application for the internship position. And then the horsemanship school, you would fill that out through the DX Ranch website.
Very cool.
And if
So,
somebody doesn't, like, if they are confused or whatever, just send me a message somewhere on a social media platform and I'll get back to you.
and you're so good about getting back to people. I don't know how you do it all. Like, I have a heck of a time keeping up with everything, even with somebody helping me. And it
Well,
just,
I don't have notifications turned on.
oh yeah,
So
me, nope. Mm.
I just generally try to do it first thing in the morning. Like, so I'm a little discombobulated this week because I'm feeding everything at about the time that I'm generally trying to respond to emails and like keep up with all of it. And then
Yeah.
I check it again at night, usually when I'm done with it or at lunch.
Oh,
But I just kind of have like the time blocked, and I have no notifications on because if I did, I would never get a colt ridden.
no.
So, I try to not get into it between like 9 and noon and 1 and whenever I'm done for the day. So,
Well, and that works out so good because you can compartmentalize everything. So if your notifications are on your phone's dinging all day long, I don't know how people could do that because it's oh my gosh, it's just it takes you away from what you're doing in the moment because you hear that ding, you're like, should I check it? You know what? What
yeah,
is
but you have to remember your phone and your notifications are for your convenience, not
correct?
anyone else's.
Correct. Yeah, I don't have mine turned on either. I don't know how people live with it on. If my phone makes noise, it like jolts my whole system. So it just it is off as far as notifications goes. So speaking of phones, okay, so we're going to talk about photography next because you've been doing photography, I feel like forever. And you've taken photography workshops with some amazing people. You are an amazing photographer. You've taught photography workshops, you like all of the things that you've done with your photography. You've been published in magazines. And then I saw, let's see, when was it? A year or two ago, I think you started posting about how you were taking pictures more with your iPhone, and your pictures were still so good. Like they were high quality. They were professional grade. I thought, I mean, I'm not a photographer, but when you're looking at your pictures online, like you have such a good eye for it. You know what you're looking for in that photograph or in what you're capturing, whether it's on a professional camera or it's on your iPhone, and you have so many tips around that. So can we just touch on that and talk about your photography?
Yeah, sure. So the best camera that you could possibly have is the one in your hand.
That's amazing.
So you don't need to be, is it good to have if you're into photography and that's something that you want to do for sure, you need a DSLR. Like, that's something you should learn to utilize for sure. But um I got tennis elbow really bad in 2015, and I had generally, like, prior to 2015, I had taken somewhere between 22 and 50,000 images a year between all the jobs that I was doing, photographing ranch life, you know, all of that. Well, then in 2015, I think I took like 5,000 because I had tennis elbow so bad I couldn't hold my camera. Um, so as I healed up from that, I started carrying my camera less and less because it was painful to hold on to the sucker. Um, and I had always used my iPhone. In fact, when Apple started with their like shot on iPhone campaign, I was part of that original campaign. They paid me for a bunch of images
Oh, how
to
cool.
use um, that were iPhone images. I think the important thing to remember about any camera is that you just have to capture what you feel in the moment. That's the first thing. The second thing is to watch what you have in your background. That's also one of the things that makes images more powerful. So, as an example, and this is the one I use most of the time, like everybody likes to see a cute little kid wearing dad's cowboy boots, right? Like little diaper, cute kid, cowboy boots. But if your living room looks like a pigsty,
Yeah.
just as an example,
Yeah.
or there's dirty socks or a chip bag on the floor, that's distracting from the main subject
Right.
of it. So we want to try to minimize distraction, I guess is really like what I'm saying. So you want to capture what you feel, you want to minimize the distraction, um, and you try to shoot into your shadow if you can. Now, for portrait photography, that can be a little tricky depending on where the sun is, because if the sun is setting and you want your subject looking into the west, that
Right.
can make their eyes hurt. That can be a little tricky. So, in that instance, you would have them close their eyes. You'd do 1, 2, 3, open smile, and you can still you can usually get your shot captured without blinding them or making them squinty and
Right.
cry
Yeah.
because of the sun. On your phones specifically, and we'll just do a quick little tutorial. So you have a zoom lens and you have a prime lens. This took me a minute to figure out when I was first getting into photography, but your prime lens is just it's just stuck. So if it's 28 millimeter, that's all you get. There's no like 70 to 200 like you'll see at these big events, these photographers with a big gray lens on their camera. That's
Yeah.
a zoom lens. So it goes from 70 millimeters to 200 millimeters. Your prime lenses don't have a zoom. The zoom on your prime lenses is your feet.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So the zoom on your cell phone should be your feet, because your cell phone, for the most part, is designed to be utilized as a prime lens. So you just get closer to your subject.
Instead of
Um,
zooming.
yes, because on your digital zoom, even though they have made these smartphones better, right? Your digital zoom still distorts your image to some degree, and it's not going to be as sharp as it would be otherwise.
Makes sense.
Um, and so the portrait, like your portrait mode on your iPhone, for example, that is that is specifically designed for you to be a certain distance away, and it'll say like 8 feet. It'll tell you, right?
Yeah.
And you have the 1 or the 3 option based on your feet and
Right.
where the subject is. You can almost capture the same thing with your iPhone though, with a regular lens by moving your feet, tapping your screen, telling it where you want the subject matter to be. And you can blur a background that way too on your
Oh,
iPhone
yeah.
if you are close enough. So your iPhone essentially is a prime lens. Don't use the zoom if you can help it. Use your feet to get closer to your subject matter.
That's such a good tip. There's so many people, and I don't feel like they know that because everybody zooms in, right? Now you also have the option of, is it zooming out on some of the iPhones?
Yes. So
Yeah.
um there's also a wide angle feature on the iPhone, and it's probably on a Droid as well. I don't know because I don't use a Droid, but you have your regular one and then you have a 0.5, which is a wide angle. So um as an example, like your wide angle shots are generally like a photojournalistic view.
I see.
So think about some of those older like black and whites where it's like a panorama and it feels a little distorted to you.
Yeah.
Um, or like the Matt Cohen photos. I don't know if you've seen any of his like under the brim.
Oh, yeah.
photos that he does, that's a wide angle
Oh,
too. Um, and he's another one that does great. He's doing rodeo photography, but he's a pretty dang good photographer. I also have it on good authority that there is a spot open in the Chris Dickinson photography workshop next weekend in Kansas.
so his workshop, I've heard from many people that it's amazing. Like,
Yep, we hosted him here for a couple years and it was awesome.
was it?
Loved it. He's such a great teacher, and he's not one of those people. And I didn't learn to shoot with rules. Like when I got to the ranch, they handed me a camera, an old like Canon D1 or something, like the very first digital camera
Yeah.
that you could, like the first DSLR model. Um, and it was like a Mark 1 or I don't even know what it was. Old. Um, and they were like, here, have fun, take photos of some horses, right?
Yeah.
And so there's of course no user manual at this time, and I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm Googling with like, satellite internet, not great internet, trying to figure out these things. And so one of the things I taught myself first was how to shoot in aperture priority mode. So for anybody that does have a DSLR camera, aperture priority mode basically lets you say to the camera, I want you to shoot at an f2.4 or whatever the lowest aperture your lens will allow you to utilize at that point in time. And then you, camera, you get to pick the rest of it.
Oh, that's cool.
So the smaller the aperture number, the more blur you get in the background, basically. So the larger your aperture number, you're like an f22, for example, everything would be super crisp and super sharp.
I see. That's
Okay.
really, yeah.
So if you're trying to blur the background, let's say on a chair, I would probably shoot that chair at 3.2, f4, somewhere in there. And then I would let the camera pick the other pieces of it if I were just starting out. Now today I probably wouldn't. I would probably choose every single setting. But
Right.
what that allowed me to do was then put those images into Lightroom where I could read what the data was, and I could make a note. Okay, well the camera said the shutter speed was 1500, and it said the ISO was 1000. So it allowed me to learn those other pieces without having to learn it all at one time.
That makes sense. So then it was there and it was almost like, what did you call it? Like a reference book. So you
Right.
could go back and you could look at, okay, what was that one shot at? And what did I like about it? And what did I not like about it? And how
Right.
changed it. So you're changing it in little bits as you go instead of like fire hosing yourself with all of this camera information because it's a lot. Like I have absolutely no interest at this point in diving into it because it's so much. Like, our brains can only take so much. And we really have to pick and choose as to what we're going to absorb and what we're going to hold on to. And that is just not in my wheelhouse. So I will stick with the iPhone. But there's so much information and you're such an expert at it. I mean, you were just rattling it off like
Yeah,
like language.
I didn't intentionally become an expert at it, to be honest. It just sort of happened that way. And it became an outlet and a way for me to fund my barrel racing addiction. The photography side of things. And I've had some excellent opportunities with the photography side of things. And now I don't hardly do any work that's not commercial work, or that doesn't involve like consignment sales for
Yeah.
horses, right? I'm photographing horses to get them sold. And Larry Larson is an excellent. My sister-in-law paid for me to go to a Larry Larson workshop several years ago. He's probably the foremost equine like photographer when it comes to like sale photos or stallion images.
Yeah.
Um, he's pretty dang good at it. And I would venture to guess that most people, other than there's a handful I know that have never been to one of his workshops, but most of the people that are now doing like sale photos for horses have probably been to see Larry Larson at one time or other.
That's awesome.
But he's very good at telling you where you set your horse up and how based on the horse's conformation, these are things that I would do to, make them look their best, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things I found about photography that I didn't like when I was doing it was People wanted me to shoot weddings. Weddings are great. Weddings pay a lot of money, but weddings happen on a weekend. And guess what I want to do on a weekend?
Yeah, she wants to run barrels on a
I
weekend.
want to run barrels on a weekend. Yeah. Um, I want to run barrels on the weekend so much. My husband's actually home from DC this week, and I'm leaving tomorrow.
Really?
Yeah. It's just one of those things. He knows he's not going to win.
Yeah, you're like priorities.
Sorry, babe. I love you, but
He'll be back.
so
It's fine.
yeah, so that was one of those things that like I didn't like the weekends. A lot of senior portraits have to happen on a weekend too, because that's the time that the mom is free to come
Right.
hang out with her daughter while we're doing senior portraits, right?
Yeah.
And so I just sort of kind of quit advertising that I even did it. And now I do the photography work for me because honestly, if I'm being 100% honest with myself, I'd really rather make my living writing.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Like it's what you love to do and where your interest is in all different aspects. So that brings up a question. Do you have an online photography tutorial or class? And then if you don't, recommend one that people could go find, like let's say they can't go to an in-person workshop. Do you offer something like that where you're like, hey, this is how you
um, No, I don't offer anything like that just yet. I have considered offering it as an internship option for people to come hang out while we're writing. That would give them the opportunity to do videography, like
oh,
mic us up, like practice in general, right? With that. And then they could come in and I'd let them have access to some social accounts to post what they're doing, especially like outside the turn or the DX ranch. We generally we generally give the interns and the students access to those social accounts so that they can share
oh,
their experiences
yeah.
um, with the world, if you will. Um, so I don't, but I do have I think on the South Dakota Cowgirl there is a page, and maybe we can put it in the show notes or something.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
I think I have like a top 5 or 6 like iPhone tips
Oh, nice.
posts that I have written. But you're not the first one to ask me about this,
I
actually.
was like, Jen, I would sign up for it. So if you could do that, that'd be great.
Yeah. So I have considered, and I really think like today in today's world, I think that the handiest thing, especially for the people that are following you, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's just teach them how to use their iPhone
Yeah.
because or their Droid. Everybody's got one, right? So,
100%.
um, I am not opposed to doing it, and maybe we just get together and do a fun little like summit workshop on a weekend, and
That'd be
then we get someone to come in and film all of it, and we break it down into like little sections where somebody then can take the course and be done with it.
Yeah, so it's just like an online course and they can take it because it's not the thing with the iPhone or the Droid or whatnot is it's not as intimidating, and then you don't have this huge expense also buying the equipment. You're not hauling your equipment, your camera around with you and your lenses and all of that stuff. So if you're just looking to, or if somebody is just looking to market their horse or market their furniture, or how many horse pictures like sale pictures have you seen where that horse is gorgeous in person, but it looks like a donkey in the picture because whoever took the picture did not do it justice. So,
A lot, a lot.
yes.
Yeah. We should do a course on selling a horse too, I feel like.
Oh my gosh. Yes, you should post all the things over on your website and
Like
then,
from a buyer's perspective, some of these sellers are just impossible to deal with.
well,
And
that,
I'm sorry, if you want to sell a horse for $35,000, please, for the love of God, get good photos of it. Don't
and
take a photo of it running through the pasture. Like, it's just not,
no,
that's
and
just not.
it's not conducive. And I want to see pictures of its legs. And could we have a video? Like, there's multiple check marks. If you're going to be selling a horse for this much money, I mean, I think it's all relative. It all transfers over, or same with furniture. Like if I'm selling a piece for a lot of money and somebody asks me for more pictures or they ask me for details as to the material or, what's in it or, what it's made up of, what paint did I use, any of that, I'm going to offer that information because as a seller, that's what you should do, right? You're offering information. So, yeah, I think on both ends, and even like what you should look for as a buyer, like this is a red flag. This is a red flag. And I mean, you've been around the block with horse sales and so much of it that you've seen so many things to share with other people where you're like, just say no. It's like a relationship. Walk away. Like that is a red flag.
100%. Yes. Yeah, for sure. For sure. But I think, everybody has an iPhone, and if we can somehow put something together that makes it easy for them, and maybe we even do it like with one of your workshops where we have somebody else that we cap that comes in and films the whole thing, or we film it. We'll make Cody do it.
He's a great video. Yes.
Let's make Cody do it. But
Yeah, he's a good mule. That's what
I love it. Oh man.
All aspects, stubborn, and he carries things with his big shoulders. Like
Yeah, there you go. But then we could then it's something that is easily put online and made available as like a one time, like $35. Here you go. Or
yeah,
whatever we decide,
I mean,
and then people have it. But you're
and I
not wrong. It would be helpful.
oh, it would be awesome. And I would 100% sign up for that. I mean, just with chair pictures alone, like I can get around it with my iPhone and I can go on Lightroom and, make them look how I want them to look. But a little instruction, it goes such a long way. I mean, with writing, if you change one tiny little thing, it can change the whole course and the whole direction as to where you're
Well,
going.
you just said something that is very important, and I think this is something that I'm experiencing a lot right now, because I have quite a few colts in that have either been started by someone else, or they've all been started by someone else, and they're either here because they just got a few rides on them last year, and we're doing the refresher course, putting the days on them, right?
Yeah.
Or they're troubled colts, and there's a difference between getting by and around and getting through.
Right. Oh, that makes sense.
So you're getting by and getting around, maybe not being as handy with your phone as you could be, right? You're getting it done. Okay.
Right.
But you're not necessarily getting through. So there's a lot of handy people that can get on a colt that's troubled.
Yeah.
And keep themselves out of trouble and keep the colt out of trouble.
Right.
And they're getting by. And that colt is still not 100% confident, but they are ahead enough and aware enough and handy enough to stay ahead of the trouble.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's not who my client is.
Right. Your client could get in trouble because they can't get by.
So I've got to be the one to get through. Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah.
I've got to be the one to help that horse say, we can go all the way to the other side of this and you're going to come out alive. I promise.
Yeah. To put the pieces together.
Right. And so, again, like with anything, your photography, your furniture, and you have to think about how you're going to do that for the end user. How's that going to happen? Who is my end user? I saw a friend of mine that trains horses. She posted this morning, like, you as the consumer of the product, which is the horse training, right? You may have to have a hard talk with yourself. Like, what are my goals for this horse? What are my limitations? Who am I going to have ride this sucker that I feel like on the other side of it, I'm going to be happy with what I get?
Right.
So like,
yeah.
She's 4'10". Okay. She's shorter than both of us.
Yeah.
She has a hard time riding behind someone that's 6 foot because their arms are longer, their legs are longer. Right. I don't know that I've necessarily had that problem because I've ridden behind some colt starters that are that way. But those particular colt starters are also getting all the way through, and they've taught the horse to learn.
So that way the horse can learn to come back to you.
Right. So the horse is learning to search for the release. And if we give the release when we get what we want, the horse will sort it out. Because let's just say you ride the same level as I do. You're still going to ask for a turnaround different than me.
Right. 100%.
Right. Just by virtue of your feel and your experience. Right. So a horse that really understands how to search for the release and how to come out the other side of it is probably going to turn around pretty similar for you as it does for me, because it's learned to search for the release. Now,
yeah,
if you don't ride at that level, it may not look the same, but they're still going to make an effort and try and stay safe for you. And that's where we want to like bridge that gap, right? I want the horse to stay safe for that person. But I've got to get through all these things and help the horse realize, like, turn your feet over to me. Whatever happens behind you doesn't matter. What
Yeah.
what happens out in front of you doesn't matter. Like, I have a plan for your feet and it's going to be fine.
And you're here with me. Yeah.
You're here with me. And so it's the same with your phone, right? Or your furniture. If
Yeah.
you get a piece that's just yours to do with what you want, you're not building it with an end user in mind. You can do it for you.
Right. Oh,
But
100%. But it should still be good. It should still be
it's just, but you're not gonna just gonna get by that piece, right?
right. Right. 100%. And so many people do. They just get by. Same deal with furniture. And
Yeah, you're gonna.
yeah. That's why I have the membership group, because I'm like, we don't just get by here. We do it correctly, and we do it so we have a good end result. Same deal. I mean, it's so relative with horses and iPhone or photography. I mean, I think it all transposes to each other. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
you're
the
absolutely
photography is the same way. People get by, but they don't get through, and then when they get challenged, they don't know what to do.
right. And panic sets in, and you're
And
yeah,
there are times, they are very rare for me at this point in time, because I've been training horses for 30 years now. But there are times when I'm like, I don't know that I know what I'm supposed to be doing right now.
yeah,
So I have to think on it. Or I make a phone call to a specific girl that's been to the NFR, and I'm like, what do I do?
yeah. Well,
You
and
know,
you're searching in your own toolbox, and then if you don't have
right,
the tool, you find it elsewhere. Yeah, totally.
right.
It's the same for me in upholstery. There's some pieces that they'll throw me for a loop, and I'll tear it open. I'm like, what is this? You search in your own mind, and you might have to think on it for a while. Might have to meditate on it for a few days. But then if I don't have the answers, there's somebody out there that has the answers. So
Right.
I
And
totally
and
agree.
I think that you have to be choosy about who you go to for your answers too.
Oh, yes.
And
Let's
we
talk about
find
that for a minute, because I know you have experience.
yeah. Why would you say I have experience?
I'm not sure, like those keyboard warriors.
Yeah, so I think today, with information at our fingertips,
Yeah.
right? There's probably a lot of people that have learned to do upholstery just from watching YouTube videos. I don't know. I've never searched
Oh,
YouTube before.
100%. I mean, that's how I started out. Yeah.
Right.
Like, yeah.
But
And
there's
good.
only so much you can glean from that. There's
Right.
only so much you can glean from asking people online, because there's more to it than that. There's feel,
Yeah.
there's the type of fabric that you're working with, right? They're all going to feel different. They're going to lay different. They're going to apply to the chair different. And if you have a round back chair with a striped fabric, good luck.
Right. And you know this. Yes, it's
I
so
I sat I walked in on your clinic enough that I learned a few things, and I follow you, right? So I see some of the things that you've talked about.
yeah.
And common sense dictates that if you have something round and a stripe and it's a weird, whatever, like, that might not be the best choice.
Oh yeah. No, like we
And
won't go down
so,
that rabbit hole.
but that is a good analogy for, okay, just because you ask someone, well, my barrel horse is doing this online, I always ask like 16 follow-up questions. If I happen to catch that on Facebook while I'm having coffee in the morning and I've got nothing better to do with my morning, I'm going to ask 5 or 6 follow-up questions, which oftentimes get glossed over. They're like, well, that's not what I asked. Well, I can't give you an answer then,
Right. Well, and it absolutely makes sense. It's like
because
diagnosing.
context matters.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, it's like diagnosing an illness. You have to know some sort of backstory as to why. You have a stomach ache. Okay, well, what did you eat? Like let's back up and see what is your history. I mean, it's 100%. Even with horses and training, and context absolutely matters. And
Oh, and it's
photography. I mean,
But
it's
photography is the same way. The context matters. Like, and what do you want your end goal to be? If you want your end goal to be stripes on a really weird shaped
yeah,
chair,
fine.
well, it's gonna make you're making a little more work for yourself.
Yeah,
Cool, good for you. But you have to ask the right question
right.
to even get there. So, yeah, I think that people want the quick fix. I mean, I don't think that I don't
Yeah.
think that TikTok and Instagram Reels and Facebook and social media in general has been helpful for this upcoming generation because they think everything is like instant,
Right. It's right
and
now.
it's
Like,
just not
yeah,
that way.
a
I
hundred
mean, I
percent.
don't take a Colt on less than a 90-day contract.
As you shouldn't, because what are
And
you
I
gonna
am not one of the cheapest people in the state, and I am full.
that's awesome though. I mean,
You
that's
know,
yeah, that says something.
but you don't get a there's no quick fixes, and the context of it matters, and it matters in upholstery, it matters in photography, it matters in all those places.
It really
So
does.
um you have to be you have to be willing to take a look at yourself and the choices again. Am I going to use a striped fabric on this, or would it be easier to just do it in leather?
Right. Or like some upholsterers won't even touch leather because you have to manipulate it a certain way. So it just, yeah, it is. It's all relative. And it's
Oh, I didn't know that.
like, oh, yes, there are so many upholsterers who they won't touch leather, which is one of the reasons I opened my group and my trainings because they don't teach about it. They don't, nobody talks about it, much less hair on hide. Like we won't even go there. That's just, it's almost like we don't talk about it. Like don't ask, don't tell. But there are upholsterers who will do it. It's just, they don't, nobody teaches on it because it's kind of like one of those unsaid, untalked or not talked about deals. So it's just understanding what you're working with and the fundamentals of it, which is the same as horsemanship. It's the same as your colt starting. You know, you want to know the fundamentals as to why and why that works better or why that doesn't work as good. So it's just, oh, it's so good. Like it's everything you have going, Jen, is so good. And when I heard about your outside the turn program, was like, oh my gosh, everybody needs to know about this. Like, I have been riding my whole life. I have been taking lessons my whole life. Like, there's so much to know, but hearing just about your program, like that right there is gold. And there's so many people who could benefit from it and that should benefit from it. But I mean, it's like you said, it's all relative. iPhones, photography, horsemanship,
Right.
furniture.
Well,
It,
and I find it interesting that you get a lot of like beginner horse owners, right? And the statistic last I read was like, what is it, 80% of first time horse owners are in and out of the market within 5 years
oh, wow.
because they get in over their head. They get sold a horse that wasn't appropriate.
Yeah.
The cheapest part of buying the horse is actually buying the or owning the horse is actually buying the horse, right?
Yes.
And it takes a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort to create something that's going to basically stay trained for someone who is learning, if you will, right?
Right.
And so um I find it interesting that the horsemanship course has not sold better than it has. We'll just be like full disclosure here,
Yeah.
but it's because they think they can go get the information for free on YouTube.
Oh, 100%. Or if you see
Or
the reels that come across, like I'll see some, the algorithm will show you some stuff and I'll see one come across. I'm like, oh my gosh. And people are learning from that. And it's not, everybody does things different. That's like we had a talk yesterday in my group about painting and staining and things like that. There are so many opinions around that, so many quote unquote right ways to do it. And I said the same thing you do. I was like, listen, this is how I do it. I don't care how you do it, but this is what works for me. So that's what I'm going to teach you. So there's all
right.
of these opinions out there, but oh my gosh, some of the videos that come across, it's almost painful to watch. And not to put anybody down or anything like that, but oh my gosh, I
Well,
totally
we're
agree.
all doing the best we can with what we have, right? And the
100%.
information that we have. And I hope that by the time I die, I still don't know everything. Like,
Yeah,
you
because how
know,
awesome would that
but
be?
I hope I'm better in 10 years than I am today. And I
Right.
hope that the problems, and I say problems loosely because I don't think there are any really like problems, horses, or like what I'm experiencing today, I'm probably not going to struggle with in 10 years. It's going to be something different. I'm still going to be struggling with something, and this is the conversation I had with my with Zoe, my previous assistant that just left me to go back home. But she was like, I just, anytime you get on these horses after I've been on them for a week, I'm just so worried that I've like screwed them up. And I'm like, dude, we screw them up every day. It's just to
Yeah.
a lesser extent. And it takes us less time to fix what we maybe didn't ask for as clearly as possible. But we're
Right.
all works in progress. So that's what I tell my clients that are like, well, this, somebody's already ridden this horse, and I'm embarrassed that I have to bring it to you. And I'm like, dude, like, I'm not throwing shade at them. That
Yeah.
person's doing the best that they know how to do with the tools that they have. And
Oh yeah.
it's not a slight against them at all.
No, no, it's just like furniture. I'll get pieces in where I tear it apart and I'm like, what is this? Like what were what were these, where were they at in their training? Like, you're just asking questions. I'm sure it's the same thing with, your horsemanship and training. Like you're like, okay, where were they at mentally with their process? But you don't know what you don't know. But then at
Right.
the same time, there's like you were talking about the TikTok training and things like that. Like if I go on Pinterest and I type in upholstery tutorial, some of the tutorials that come up, it's it's crazy to see what's out there. So I totally agree with you. It does matter who you're learning from. And there's so many people out there that are offering classes or training or things like that, and you're going to take different bits and pieces from everybody and from everywhere. But I think for what really matters, what you have going with your outside the turn, I think it's just so good. It's so
Well, I
so
appreciate that. That's very nice to hear you say that.
well. I hope more people pick up on it and come find you, because I feel like there's not a lot out there for what you're offering. And there's not a lot of options where we're at. Like if you want to go take lessons, like horsemanship lessons, I know of maybe two gals that I would trust to send people to learn. I want to say correctly, but to learn intelligently and to learn the reasons why. But those gals are full. They can't help anybody else because they're full. Their barns are
Mhm.
full. Their student load is full. I mean, they're just slammed. And so for you to offer something online to where people can access it on their time, or like for me, if I'm going to go take a cutting lesson or I want to go rope with some of the guys that, their roping skills are just off the charts, I have to plan that out for my,
Mhm.
and like sometimes you can't make that work. Sometimes my time doesn't line up with your time. So the fact that you
Right.
can offer that online and people can just access it whenever they have time, I think it's amazing. I think you're onto something. I think you're innovating something. And I feel like more people need to really take advantage of it.
Well,
So
and I was asked the other day to like organize it by like colt starting by, and I'm like, oh gosh, I should totally do that. So yeah, that's on the list of things to do to organize the content for the members. Like, here's all the colt starting videos.
yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
hopefully they're labeled appropriately, like this is groundwork. But there's always things that you can change or build on, or you might get a horse in that's like, oh, this is an interesting specimen. We have to.
Yeah, and then you have to document that and organize that.
Yeah,
I'm doing
yeah.
the same thing. I'm going through and organizing all my videos. I reloaded and moved 83 videos the other day, and I was like, how in the world am I going to organize all of these? And those are tutorial videos for the members over on the website. And yeah, I mean, so the struggles.
Oh my gravy.
But oh, you have so many videos. If you're taking 6 a week, my gosh, your content it's insane. And on all
Yeah.
levels. So
It's
yeah.
fun. I'm very grateful. And I think ideally I would like to have some like long-term students that I don't want to have like a specific, like, maybe I do want to have a certification, but it would be nice to have a big enough brand where people can be like, well, I trained under her for 3 years. So that there's more people out kind of operating, in this realm. And barrel horses specifically, the really top trainers are pretty handy, and they do a lot of the same things I do, maybe in a different way. But the end result is a soft, thoughtful horse at speed.
Yeah.
Um, but maybe how they are describing said horse or the struggles that they're having with said horse, like a lot of people are putting that responsibility on the horse, and it's not the responsibility of the horse, it's the responsibility of us.
Right.
So if a horse is getting flat through a turn, what do we need to change in how we're riding or communicating with it to help it not be that way?
Right. Oh,
Or if your
that's
horse is leaking towards your cow, right? They're not supposed to do that. They're
right.
supposed to stay back. So what
Exactly.
is it what are you doing? Because I reined cow horses for a minute, so in college. So, what are you doing in your riding that's having your horse creep forward?
Right, that you're creating it,
And
you know?
it's not your horse. He would do what we wanted every single time if we were communicating it correctly.
Right.
So, I would like to. I really like fundamentally want to change the industry, which is a huge, huge goal. I know, but I
Oh,
think I
it's
think
all
we'll get there.
I think so. And it's those little moves. And I think you are getting there. Like when we were talking about it, or the cowgirl was like, girl, you are on to something. Like something at some point, where Cody and I were talking about that book, The Tipping Point, last night. And I was like, okay, at some point you should read it, Jen, if you haven't. It's a great
I
book.
haven't. I will order it.
It is a great book. And it just talks about like at some point you hit a tipping point. And I mean, it's way more in depth than that. Like this book is just, it's a great book, but it talks about how regardless where you're at some point with what's in motion, it has to hit a tipping point, whether you're working out and you're not seeing results, or you're hustling and you're not seeing the results. You have all these people that they're like an overnight success. No, they hustled for how long, and
Right.
then at some point it just hit that tipping point, and then it ran with it.
I
So
think I think we're getting there. Like, full disclosure, I had two or three outside horses in October, November, and December. It was dead. And I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And now I am full up. And that, I mean, that to some degree that's just South Dakota because everybody puts their horses away when the weather gets to
yeah,
crap, right?
and it ebbs and
But
flows. Yeah, for
it
sure.
does ebb and flow. And I just decided I'm like, I'm taking as many as I can possibly fathom having at one time right now. So
Yeah.
that maybe if I do get the chance to take December off, I can do that. But I'm starting to feel like it's going the direction that I want it to go. And
That's
I've been hustling for a long time at this.
yeah. I've been watching you hustle. I like all of it. Like you have been putting in the work, and I mean, just from, and then you add yoga on top of it. Like you and you do your yoga challenge. I'm like, Jen's crazy. She's absolutely crazy.
I
Like,
kind of slacked this week, but I did do it last night. So my goal is to have a full 300 days for the year
that's
of yoga.
amazing. Good for you.
So
And
I'd like it to be 330, but 300 is the actual, like,
that's an
that's
amazing goal. Well, and it all transfers over, right? Your body, your mind. I mean, it's
what we like make time for is our priority. So if it's not our priority, we're not going to make time for it.
right, 100%. And our values and our priority, like, yeah, all of that. So I better let you get off here. So I could talk to you all day long. You're so much fun. You have so much value. You have so much information. So can
I
you?
feel the same about you though.
Oh, well, thank you. You're too sweet. It's so good. Like all of your content is so good. And can you tell people where they can find you, where they can follow you, so they can follow
Okay.
along in your journey in the between the horsemanship and your personal page and hopefully.
Yep.
Oh,
Okay. So you can go to the southdakotacowgirl.com. That's my website for photography and kind of all those things. If you want to reach me for press, that's where you would find me. Um, and I probably have really neglected that little space for a hot minute. But if I'm doing any photography projects, that's where they go, is to the southdakotacowgirl.com. I'm also at the SD Cowgirl on Instagram and the South Dakota Cowgirl on Facebook. If you want to follow the ranch, if you want to be one of the ones to snag one of these weanlings that we're going to sell this year, you would go to Duchesneau Quarter Horses on Facebook or the dxranch.com online.
perfect.
Um, and they can follow us. I think we are the DX Ranch on Instagram as well.
Oh yeah, I think so. I follow you
And
on.
then, yep, we're on Instagram as well. And then Outside the Turn is rideoutsidethetturn.com on the internet. I have Outside the Turn too, but that requires me like redirecting and it's a little
Oh,
above my pay
oh,
grade.
yeah.
So rideoutsidethetturn.com is where you can sign up for a membership or you can contact me through that website. You can apply for the internship program. And if you do apply for the internship program, please do not hesitate to like shoot me an email or message or a text or something, because for whatever reason, I don't get notified when those applications get filled out. So just like let me know that you did that. And then it's outside the turn on Instagram and outside the turn on Facebook. And then I'm on TikTok as outside the turn too, I believe. And the content from TikTok to Instagram and Facebook does vary some.
Yeah.
So TikTok lets me put longer videos. If you do your reels through Facebook, it only lets me do a minute. If I
Yeah.
do them through Instagram, it lets me do 90 seconds. TikTok lets me go as long as I want.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah.
um, you can reach me on any of those platforms. I answer direct messages. If you end up in my other inbox, it might take me a minute to find you. So don't think I'm ignoring you. I just forget to check those sometimes.
But you're just all over the place. Just your content alone. I don't know how you keep up with all the content creation and messages and
I
comments.
do it all, but I fly by the seat of my pants.
It works though. It works.
Probably drives my friend Thea bananas because I don't plan anything. I'm like, well, today I might, whatever. So
I'm gonna video this, and that's yeah, I get it. So yeah, I don't have a schedule except for Tuesdays. I meet with my online group on Tuesdays, and that's about it. So the rest of it is just I wing it.
well,
So
and I did forget to mention this. I do a monthly like group chat for all the members in my website too. So I try to send an email out that's like, this is the date we're going to do it. Here's the link. If you have questions you'd like me to answer, send them now so that I have them and I can just make a list
yeah.
um, to walk through, you know, what people are asking or what they're working on. Otherwise, I just talk about what's going on in my life and what I'm learning from the horses because I learn something new every day.
Yeah, and it's all value. Like you don't know what someone else is learning from your experience. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Jen. I'm so glad you could come on here today. I'm so glad that I could meet with you today and we could have this conversation because I feel like I could just go on forever. But you have so much value and so much to offer, and your program is just so good. So I hope more people come your way and come to your program, even just your online program, because that's awesome. Like it's needed. I feel like you're filling a need. You saw a need, you're filling it, and at some point it's really gonna gain some more traction. So
Hopefully. Well, thank you so much for having me.